Zach was an ugly bullet orphan child who was nearly burned to death by his stepdad at a young age and was adopted by abusive cannibals that fed him the bodies of dead children every day. Throughout the years, he would get beaten as he buried the bodies of his childhood friends, but when he saw the skull of his brother after he was eaten alive, his mind began breaking down. So when he watched a movie that night about a serial killer approaching a couple in the forest before killing them, his sanity finally snapped, and he realized this was all he needed to do. As his disgusting parents were sleeping, he grabbed a knife from the kitchen while walking towards their room and stood over his father's body before stabbing him to death. All the years of abuse he endured drove him to kill both of his useless foster parents, but he couldn't help but smile as he had finally regained his freedom. After leaving his prison, he began walking aimlessly until a car splashed him, but when the lady came to apologize, she realized that he was holding a bloody knife and told him that he should hurry back to his house. However, Zach told her that he's never had a home, and as the scenes of the movie flashed in his mind, he decided to take her life as well, before going inside of her car to sleep for the night. When the morning arrived, a senile elderly man approached his car and began knocking on the window, wondering if someone was in there. As Zach opened the door ready to kill him, the old man asked Zach if he was camping with his parents, saying that he was blind so he couldn't tell. So when Zach's stomach growled, the man realized he was starving, so he brought him back to his house before inviting him inside. While he ate, the man wondered how he was lost in the forest and told him that he could stay with him until they found his family. When Zach wondered why he was helping him, the man revealed that it was because he was lonely and that he hadn't talked to anyone in years. That night, a deep desire began preventing Zach from falling asleep, and he realized that his knife was the only way to satisfy himself. But as he began walking toward the old man's bed, he realized that killing him wouldn't be satisfying, so he decided to walk inside the city's alleys at night. A few moments later, when a random loser bumped past him, Zach pulled out his knife and stabbed the man, killing him in that instant. However, the urge continued nagging at him, but with his knife doled out, he decided that it was now worthless, just like his life. After getting back home, the old man smelled the scent of blood and wondered where he had disappeared off to, so Zach revealed that he killed a man to satisfy his desires. When the old man heard his words, he asked him what he wanted to do now and covered Zach up, telling him to sleep peacefully. In the morning, the old man left the house, but even when the night came, he had still never returned. On the table, Zach saw a letter saying that he went to grab milk, but he couldn't figure out what it said since he never learned how to read. Hours began passing, and Zach started losing his mind thinking he was abandoned once again, and destroyed the entire house until he found a knife amongst all the rubble. Throughout the forest, he began walking until he found a group of people next to a police car, and saw the body of his old man covered underneath. At the same time, a disgusting couple were glad they killed the broke grandpa for a few quarters, but when they saw Zach staring at them, the man told Zach to get his ugly face out of his sight. However, Zach saw they looked happy, and realized that all this time, it was happy-looking people that satisfied his urge. So he pulled out his knife as the man fell to the ground, and stabbed him to death before rushing towards his girlfriend. He killed both of them that night, but all he could think about was the old man asking him what he wanted to do. So he answered that he wanted to destroy the happy people enjoying their lives and make them fall into despair. He knew that he was a monster, but wished that the old man, the only person who cared about him his entire life, wouldn't have died. However, Zach wasn't the only one who endured the abuse of horrible parents, because during the following years, a young girl called Rachel would come back home to her alcoholic dad, who screamed at her for being mentally ill and would beat her mother before her eyes. However, she would laugh hysterically at all of it, and no matter how many times Rachel asked them to listen to her, neither of them would. That night, her mother promised to make him scream, and when Rachel tried asking her to listen, she slapped her face, saying she was the reason for being trapped inside this hell. Even so, Rachel tried asking for her to listen once again, but her mother screamed at her to just go inside of her room. Months later, Rachel would reveal inside a mental hospital that she just wanted to take care of a sick puppy. But after she saw the puppy pass out, all she remembered was being in her room, fixing that puppy. After she had fixed the poor dog, her father screamed at his wife once again, and as she walked downstairs, she heard her mother screaming for her life. But when she opened the door, she saw her mother's lifeless body. Once her father noticed she saw everything, he said that she would be next, and although Rachel tried running away, her father began chasing her until she got inside of her room and locked the door. She tried telling the puppy to not be scared, but her father broke through the door, saying that she was just as crazy as him for the way she killed the puppy and stitched it, also that she could make the dog hers. As he laughed at how crazy all of them were, he told her that no one would ever miss her, but she pulled out a gun and aimed it at her father, saying it was her mother's gun.
私の理想の家族になって。
After telling the doctor that story, however, he hypnotized her to erase all of her memories, and she woke up in an isolated hospital, wondering why she was in a completely different place. As she walked out of the room, she heard the sound of an elevator opening, and after entering inside, the PA system announced that the sacrifice had been selected. Eventually, she arrived at a floor called the play area, but as she walked around trying to find the exit, she heard the sound of glass breaking, so she started running away after realizing someone was following her. As she kept running, she saw the stains of blood on the ground along with a bird that was injured. But after saying that she would treat it, a blast from the wall killed the bird. Zach came out laughing, glad that her hopeful face had turned into despair, and said that he would give her 3 seconds to run away screaming for her life. As he began counting, Rachel tried running away, but Zach began chasing after her until she arrived inside an abandoned storage room. After looking around for where to hide, Zach had managed to catch up to her, and once he entered the room, he wondered where she was hiding. So he began piercing his scythe into all of the crates, narrowly missing her body before realizing that she was hiding somewhere else. As he walked outside, Rachel knew that she needed to get away before he found her, but when she got back to see the bird, the life in her eyes disappeared, and she swore that she would fix the bird, saying that he will become hers forever. After sewing the bird up, she began running back towards the elevator, but Zach had managed to find her, saying that he wouldn't give her any more time to escape. As he leapt to slash her, she ducked down and tried running away, but Zach continued laughing hysterically and rushed after her. But even as the elevator opened, he continued closing the distance, until she narrowly managed to close the gates before he tore her apart, and the elevator began moving her upstairs. A few moments later, she arrived on the 2nd floor, and saw that she was back inside the hospital she recognized. From the dark hallway, she heard the sound of a man running towards her, so she began trying to escape. But the man caught up, saying he was Danny, the doctor who'd been counseling her. As she looked at his face, she wondered if he was really the same person, and Zach saw the way she had stitched up the dead bird. At the same time, the doctor told Rachel that he'd been waiting for her and took her to a dark room, where he told her that he wanted her perfect eyes. So he grabbed her hand and started dragging her to an operating room, saying that he wanted to take a look at her eyes, and that they were as beautiful as his mother's dead eyes. He remembered the day his mother isekai'd herself, and said that he would do anything for her eyes, but he needed her to look for something first in the back room. As she entered inside, she saw hundreds of jars filled with eyeballs, and as Danny appeared from behind, he told her that he was looking for the eyes behind her. So after she gave it to him, he told her to not run away, because she'd regret it. After leaving the room, Rachel realized that she needed to find a way out, and after seeing a crowbar on the ground, she began trying to open the door. But as soon as it opened, she realized that Danny was standing behind her. He told her that this was his floor, and that he would never allow her beautiful eyes to escape away from him, so he promised to take her eyes away for himself. As he began dragging her back to the table, he said that he would rip those eyes out, but she begged him to stop before giving up, saying that she wanted to go back to her parents. So Danny promised that she would meet her parents soon, since they were waiting for her in hell. In that moment, the memories of her dead family finally reappeared in her mind. But as the doctor tried asking her to respond to him, she stopped saying anything. After seeing the depressing look on her face, he said that he would finally have her eyes to himself. But in that moment, a scythe stabbed deep into his body, and Zach had managed to kill Danny, glad that he was able to end the life of another happy victim. However, he was ready to kill Rachel, and told her to run away and struggle for her life. But as he pulled his scythe towards her neck, he realized that she wasn't screaming at all, and wondered if she wanted to live. At that moment, a bell began ringing, saying that one of the rules had been violated, making Zach the new sacrifice. After hearing those words, he realized that he should start running, but once he was gone, Rachel's memories flashed again, and she realized that she shouldn't be alive. As Zach tried breaking through the elevator door, Rachel began approaching him, saying that she had a favor to ask, and as she looked into his eyes, she asked him to kill her. When he heard those words, Zack wondered if this psycho bitch was crazier than him, and told her to stop saying things that were more disgusting than his burnt up face. However, she asked him if he would eliminate her after she opened the door, but he pushed her away and told her to get them out first. So she began walking back, and after finding the doctor's body, she remembered him saying that it was his floor, so she began searching his clothes. As Zack kept pounding on the door, it opened at that moment, and Rachel revealed that the key was inside of the doctor's pockets. Seeing that she was smart, he promised to fulfill her wish and end her life if she would help him get out, hoping that her face would be better for killing by then. Hearing those words gave her hope, and she promised to do her best. As he began walking away, he asked what her name was, so she introduced herself as Rachel Gardner, and the serial killer introduced himself as Zack. When they arrived onto the 3rd floor, she realized there was something inside of the water, but Zack told her to keep moving. Before long, they arrived at a graveyard, and Rachel began staring at a hole, wishing she could just be buried already. But Zack was creeped out by her horrendous face and screamed at her to return to her senses. As they arrived at another graveyard, Rachel began to read the inscription on a stone and realized that the gravestones were for all the people that have been killed. Just then, she noticed a separate gravestone and realized that her name has been inscribed on it. At the same time, she spotted another grave, and they realized it was being prepared for Zack. However, he thought he could defile death and tried to destroy it, but Rachel told him that he would only break his scythe. At that moment, she discovered an opening in the wall, so she told him to try and find the exit in the meantime. But he told her to try and fix her useless face. However, as she was about to head inside, she told him not to destroy her grave, so she can lay inside when he was ready to kill her. But her words made Zack shiver. While she walked through the corridor, she discovered that the door has been locked at the end. But she noticed a letter and realized that whoever wrote it had prepared the grave for her. Meanwhile, Zack was entirely clueless about finding an exit. But as his grave made him restless, he spotted a pickaxe and decided to destroy it. As he successfully broke the edge, he started wrecking the rest of the gravestones. Luckily, a rock fell on a switch and unlocked the door in the corridor, so Rachel opened it, but wondered if the brain-dead moron intentionally figured it out on his own. As she walked through the new corridor, she arrived at a room and began hearing a mysterious voice. Noticing a register, she decided to take a look and discovered that it was a record of everyone that has been killed in the building. Just then, she came across her own record, but wasn't even flinched by it. On the other hand, Zack continued his devastation of the graves, but soon realized that only Rachel's gravestone was left. The memory of her stern warning made him afraid, so he threw away the pickaxe. Right then, she appeared before him and noticed the destruction, but as she revealed the documents, saying that they contained all of their information, Zack told her that they were irrelevant. However, she showed him his own document and began reading about an Isaac Foster being entered into an illegal orphanage that abused him until the day his parents died. Before she could keep going, Zack wondered how she felt after reading that, and revealed that his real name was Isaac Foster, asking her if she was afraid of him. But when she told him that she wasn't, he revealed that a different girl had once said the same thing, because inside a dark alley one night, he had managed to catch up to a girl and asked her if she was afraid of him. However, she said that she was actually his fan, and went on to say that it was an honor meeting him here after all this time. As she tried saying that he was manly and began caressing him, he grabbed her by the head and shoved her onto the ground, asking her what the fuck she was talking about. So he gave her 5 seconds to run away, but after catching up to her once again, he wondered why she would run if she wasn't afraid. However, she revealed that anyone would be afraid of being killed, and cried for someone to save her. But Zack said that he hated lies and ended her life. Rachel wondered what the fuck this depressing ass story had to do with her, and said she can start running if it meant he'd kill her. Zack remembered this bitch was a psycho, so he decided to destroy her gravestone, telling her that she wouldn't die here. But she grew sad realizing she wouldn't die yet. Hoping to make her feel better, he told her that he would put her out of her misery once he was safe outside of this building. So he returned to the elevator, and as he realized he couldn't open it, Rachel told him to look inside the water, hoping he would find a switch for it. Desperate to leave, Zack began looking through the water, but Rachel thought he has no true intention of killing her. When he wondered why she wouldn't do so herself, she told him that it was a terrible sin, and said that it was because God said it, so it must be true. After hearing those words, however, Zack told her to show some emotion, saying that it would motivate him to end her life. But when she couldn't even pretend to be afraid, he realized she was already dead on the inside. Just then, he stepped on a switch, and as a door opened in the corridor, Rachel decided to see what was inside. Before long, she came across a letter and flower and wondered who put them here. At the same time, Zack grew tired of waiting in the water, but as the lights went out at that instant, a mysterious kid appeared before him. The kid wondered why he destroyed the graves, as he thought his own grave was a perfect fit for him. However, Zack was creeped out by the thought of it and tried to slay him, but he jumped away. As the kid revealed that his name is Eddie, he managed to evade his scythe before dodging again. So he began saying that he's fallen in love with Rachel and revealed that he intends to make the perfect grave for her as he thought she was his missing piece. But Zack told him the only thing missing was his useless brain.
What did he say?
However, Eddie was certain that she was perfect for him and told Zack that he would put her out of her misery. Angered by his words, Zack tried to attack him, but he vanished off into the darkness. Meanwhile, Rachel discovered that the final door has been unlocked, so she decided to use a flashlight and found another letter inside. Just then, Eddie appeared behind her, saying that he came to grant her death wish and would gladly isekai her ass because he thought Zack was too weak and useless to do the job. On the other hand, Zack began screaming for Rachel as he thought the weird kid may try to persuade her into ditching him, so he decided to find another way around. At the same time, Rachel started backing into the wall as Eddie continued trying to persuade her, but she told him that she already promised herself to Zack. Just then, Zack arrived at the opposite side of the wall, so Eddie told her to choose one final time whom she wishes would end her life. As she nearly chose him, Zack banged on the wall and began screaming that he's the only one who could kill her and even swore to God that he would. So after asking him if he really swore to God, he told her that he did and that she needed to stay alive until then, so she begged him to break through the wall. With a strike, Zack destroyed the wall and entered through the opening. But as they noticed that Eddie was gone, Zack screamed at Rachel to make herself useful to him if she wanted to die. But she wondered if he really meant those words. She told him that he swore to God and kept repeating the words to God, asking him to swear to God that he'll kill her over and over, so he pushed her away, saying that he really hated nothing more than lies. However, they needed to find the Eddie kid first, so Rachel said that he was down the hall, and they began to leave. Before long, they arrived at the end of the corridor, but realized that Eddie was already waiting for them. As he began asking how he could possibly persuade her, he jumped at her with his shovel, but Zack blocked his attack, and he leapt away. Unwilling to accept defeat, Eddie attacked again, but jumped back just in time. At that moment, the lights went out, so he vanished into the darkness, but started smacking Zack as he disappeared before his eyes. With Zack growing desperate, he told Rachel to find the light switch, so she hurried away, but Eddie dodged another attack before retreating into the darkness. As Rachel decided to hide behind a gravestone, she noticed a beautiful burial that was already prepared for her. Just as she admired it, Eddie knocked the wind out of her and began saying that he would give her a good burial once she agrees to die. However, as he raised his shovel to end her, she fell into the hole, and the useless rotten creep thought he could finally kill her. Immediately, she shined her light at him and shoved him into the headstone before grabbing his remote, successfully turning the lights back on, and Zack smacked the ugly mask off before sending him to Nirvana. As he tried saying that the grave would have been a perfect fit for Rachel, Zack pushed the headstone on his body, burying him forever. With the creep finally gone, Zack wondered how they would find the elevator, so Rachel pushed a button on the remote, and they realized it was behind the waterfall. So they headed inside, and it ascended to another floor. As the elevator opened, they realized they were in another unfamiliar place. When Rachel discovered the gate was locked, she told Zack that the building was probably empty. However, he said it was their only way out and tried to break the cell, but realized it was too solid. At that moment, the alarm went off, but Zack saved her as a machine gun fired. When its bullets ran out, they started hearing a voice over the PA system, and a useless creepy girl announced that she's been waiting for their arrival. She told them that she's the judge of this floor, and said that she would be punishing them for all their sins, so the gate opened at that instant. As they arrived at a locked door, the girl commanded them to take their mug shots like every other worthless criminal. By the time they were done, they noticed the exit, but as they arrived inside a dark room, they saw the ugly creepy drawings on the walls, and the girl announced that each drawing represents their punishment. Hoping to find the exit, Zack decided to check another room, but discovered that it was filled with ugly creepy puppets, so he told Rachel to find an exit. However, as he began to lose his patience, he noticed a wooden chair and decided to take a seat like it was his throne. As Rachel tried telling him that it was an electric chair, the lights went out and Zack realized he was strapped in. Just then, a TV appeared before them, and the useless creepy girl welcomed them to her floor. Her name was Kathy, and she revealed that she would be playing judge for their crimes. As she stepped on a button, the chair electrocuted Zach, nearly frying his useless brain. But she turned it off. Rachel wondered if he was dead already, but he began threatening to kill the nutcase once he was free. However, she revealed that he would only be freed if Rachel figures out how to stop the electrocution. At that moment, the puppets came awake, but Zach realized he was about to lose his worthless brain, and begged Rachel to figure something out. So as the chair electrocuted him once again, Rachel began to study the puppets, and thought they were put here for a reason. So as she pulled the scythe, she started hacking them one after another until the electrocution stopped. With Zach unconscious, she began wondering if he was still alive, but he screamed at her for taking so long, seeing as he nearly lost his brain. Just then, Kathy appeared on the TV, but Zach smashed her worthless face. However, they continued hearing her voice over the PA system as she decided to open the exit. Before long, they arrived at a warning sign, and Rachel tried telling Zach that the room would be worse than the last, but his fried brain thought he was invincible, so he decided to enter anyway. At once, the door sealed them inside, but Zach thought the room was just a useless dump. As Kathy appeared on their TV, she began explaining their next challenge, and said that they must solve the puzzle before they were killed by toxic gas. At that moment, an alarm started blaring, and the toxic gas was released into the room. Hoping to keep Rachel alive, Zach tried to put the oxygen mask on her, saying that his worthless life depends on her survival. But she could care less for her own life and told him to save himself first. As she noticed a corpse, she thought it must be a clue, so Zach kicked it over. Right then, she spotted the writing on the floor and wondered what it meant. However, she began to grow sick from the gas, so Zach put the mask on her, telling her to stay alive no matter what. So she told him to put a foot on the scale, hoping they could solve the puzzle by balancing the weight. As she managed to do so, she discovered that the exit still wasn't opened, and wondered why they weren't freed already. So she decided to search for more clues, and took the mask off, but the gas began to weaken her body, and as she got worse, she thought she was about to die. But Zach caught her before she passed out, and put the mask on her, saying that they must survive. As his words inspired her, she decided to search for new clues, and soon noticed an opening in the ceiling. When she wondered how they could search inside, Zach threw her into the ceiling at once. Inside, she managed to find a key card, but when Zach realized she was too sick to even use it, he tried to put it in the machine. However, his moronic brain couldn't figure it out, and he eventually bent the card. At that moment, Kathy revealed that their time had already ran out, and decided to increase the toxic gas. But with Zach determined to survive, Rachel realized she could create a bomb using the gas and batteries. But as soon as she created it, she passed out, and the bomb exploded in that instant, destroying the entire room. Luckily, they managed to survive the explosion, but Rachel fell down again as she had grown weak from inhaling the gas. However, as she managed to stand, they started walking towards their next challenge. But when Zach noticed Rachel struggling to move forward, he decided to let her rest. A few hours later, they began walking towards the next room, but Kathy used the PA system again, saying it was admirable how both of them were using each other to fulfill their desires, but wondered which one was the real tool. Zach wondered what the fuck she meant by that, but she told him that he would find out soon. Eventually, they arrived in a cell, and noticed a dollhouse, so Kathy revealed that they would only be allowed to leave if one of them manages to solve the riddle. With Zach too moronic to do anything, Rachel decided to solve it, hoping he would rearrange the dollhouse instead. As a drawer opened before Rachel, she saw a math problem, and after solving it, she realized that the numbers referred to the page and sentences written inside a book. So after deciphering the code and matching the words, she told Zach to put the man doll in the living room. As he did, another drawer opened, so she told him to put the woman doll beside it. However, as he picked a bandaged doll that looked exactly like him, he realized that this challenge was specifically created to make him relive his past. As the memories began to haunt him, his anger grew, and he tried to destroy the dollhouse. But Kathy told him that he would be stuck in the cell forever, so he decided to spare it, but got even worse as the doll reminded him of the way he used to eat the other dead kids, and how he was constantly abused by his worthless foster parents. Kathy continued reminding him that he was nothing but a worthless tool his entire life, and that even now he was being used by Rachel to help them escape. With all those memories coming back, he destroyed the entire set, but Kathy revealed that they already passed the challenge. Immediately, the gate sealed them in, separating them into 2 different cells, and Rachel wondered if the dollhouse was starting to make him lose his mind. As Kathy decided to reveal herself to them, she said that they would only be freed if they take a shot from the syringe. However, with one of the needles containing a fatal venom, Zach wondered which one of them would survive. But Kathy decided to leave. Rachel wanted to take both shots as she wanted to die anyway, but Zach knew he was screwed once she dies, and told her to stay alive until he was dead. Before she knew it, he took her needle and injected both into his body. So as the door opened, he began to leave, but Rachel was worried that he would soon lose consciousness. Before long, Zach became totally exhausted as the memories from his past continued flashing across his mind. Just as Rachel appeared before him, he readied his scythe to end her, but she wouldn't even flinch, and reminded him that she already agreed to help him escape so that he would fulfill his promise to send her off to the afterlife. Afraid of getting stuck forever, Zach decided to release her, and asked her to stay alive until he killed her, saying that he hates nothing more than liars before pushing her away. As he began to lose his mind to the drugs, Rachel started running away, hoping to save him by staying alive. But when she entered another room, she realized it was a dead end, but Zach continued approaching her, ready to take her life. Realizing she has nowhere else to run, Rachel decided to surrender, but as Zach raised his scythe, a bullet pierced his arm, and Rachel noticed the guns pointing at them. At that moment, Kathy appeared before them, saying that they were in the firing squad room, and that she could easily end their worthless lives with her remote. As Zach managed to stand, he tried to destroy the glass, but a bullet pierced his leg immediately. Realizing he may be wounded, Rachel tried to help him, but he screamed at her to stay away, afraid he would lose his mind again. To make them even, Kathy revealed the gun on the floor, and told Rachel to kill Zach before he kills her. However, as she decided to pick the gun up, Zach told her to end him, but she refused, telling him that they wouldn't become puppets of that woman, because it was their choice to kill or to be killed, and that they weren't tools to be used. Hearing those words, Zach wished she wouldn't say such interesting things now, and couldn't hold himself back, so he asked her to smile already. But when she faked a smile at him, his mind began breaking apart. After all, he knew it was nothing but a fake smile, but thought seeing her real smile would make him the happiest man alive. Just the thought of killing her while she smiled began making him smile more than anyone else, so he decided to isekai himself to destroy his own happiness. Angered by the sight, Kathy entered the room, and began calling both of them a pair of ugly, useless trash that deserved to be judged as sinners. When Rachel tried saying that they aren't her puppet, she smacked her face, saying that Zach deserved to suffer before his death, and called Rachel a worthless failure for refusing to kill him by herself. Ready to end her, she directed the guns towards her, but Zach regained consciousness at that moment, as the ugly bitch decided to step on his wound. Hoping to torture his worthless body before finally killing him, Rachel pointed the gun at her and threatened to end her life at that instant. However, Kathy told her that the gun wasn't even loaded, and caused one of her guns to shoot it away. But as she returned to Zach, Rachel pulled another gun from her bag and fired at her. Even so, Kathy survived, and thought that Rachel had become a perfect criminal and was ready to be judged. But Zach sliced her arm off, saying that her disgusting face deserves to be condemned, and slayed her instantly. However, Kathy managed to crawl towards the remote, determined to kill them, but her guns fired in the wrong direction until they ran out of bullets. As she entered Nirvana, Zach revealed that the drugs were starting to wear off, and that he has returned to his senses. As they arrived at the control room, Rachel discovered that Kathy was controlling the entire floor, and eventually opened the door with the controls. Before long, they came across writing on the wall, and Rachel thought it might be a clue to find the elevator. But when they arrived at another corridor, they realized it was the same place they passed through when they first arrived. So Rachel suggested that they try the mug shot room. Inside the room, as Zach wondered how they would open the elevator, Rachel noticed an indentation, and remembered the writing on the wall. She thought it must really be a clue, and decided to use Zach's name board on the indentation. Immediately, the elevator opened, and as they ascended to another floor, Zach asked her how she wound up in this useless building. As Rachel told him that she was taken to a hospital for counseling after witnessing a murder, she revealed that she has no idea how she ended up here. When Zach wondered how she found her gun, she told him that it has always been with her. Just then, the elevator stopped, and as Zach passed out before her eyes, she realized he had lost all his red sauce, so she decided to drag him out of the elevator. However, as he regained consciousness, she noticed his wound and realized that his life would end if he wasn't treated. so as he lost consciousness again, she decided to go in search of first aid. When she arrived inside a dark room, she began hurrying towards the end. Just then, the candles lit up, and she realized she was inside an empty chapel. At the same time, a purple smoke surrounded her, but as it cleared, she realized it was only an illusion. As she entered another dark room, she continued to sense the purple smoke around her. At that moment, a creepy white-eyed dude appeared behind her, demanding to know who she is. However, when she wouldn't say, he decided to tell her that he's the priest of this church, and introduced himself as Gray. As he told her that this is actually his floor, Rachel thought he might be another deranged menace, and tried to step back, but he told her that he hasn't judged her yet, and couldn't pass any judgment on her. When he wondered why she was here, she told him that she was trying to save her friend, so he revealed that she could only find first aid on Danny's floor. After asking how she could reach it, Gray offered to take her, but said that she must first undergo a series of tests in hopes of discovering who she really is. With time running out, Rachel decided to return to Zach, hoping he was still alive. While she helped him to rest on the wall, she decided to tell him about the mysterious priest, but Zach tried to follow her, afraid the man would be a threat. However, as he realized he couldn't even lift his own scythe, Rachel told him that he would die soon at this rate, but asked him to rest in the meantime as she promised to save him. So as he realized he would only be dead weight anyway, Zach finally agreed. Before long, Rachel returned to the ugly white-eyed priest and told him that she was willing to take his test, but asked that he spare Zach's worthless life. A few minutes later, they descended down the elevator. As the purple smoke began to surround them, Rachel realized it was emanating from the priest. But they soon arrived at Kathy's floor. Rachel wondered why they weren't on Danny's floor instead, so Gray told her that she would be tested in all the previous floors she's been on, and said that her only task here was to turn on the electricity that powers the elevator. After letting out those words, purple smoke spread across the entire floor, so Rachel hurried away. Just as she spotted the switch, a zombie fell down before her and more zombies appeared. So she started running away as they tripped on each other, but more of them appeared, so she fired at one and managed to hide inside a room. However, the zombies forced their way inside, but she escaped into another room and realized that Kathy's body has vanished. At once, she hurried to the controls, and as she activated the guns, she began firing at them, realizing she was running out of time. When she was done, Kathy's ghost appeared behind her and started calling her an ugly, useless killer who only cared for herself, saying that she was now worse than Zach and that she was the greatest sinner in the world. However, Rachel was unfazed by her disgusting words and merely watched her vanish. When she returned to the cell, she switched on the electricity, and by the time she arrived at the elevator, she realized it was open. However, when Gray asked to know what enemies she came across, she told him she already annihilated them, and said that they were irrelevant. As he realized she wasn't feeling bad about killing the nearly dead prisoners, Gray decided to lead her to Eddie's floor, and once they arrived, he told her to find the electricity switch inside the control room. But Rachel was already sick of his useless tests and started thinking it was a waste of time. However, Gray decided to tell her that the tests were meant to reveal who she really is, because she was considered an irregular child. Right then, she realized that Eddie's body had vanished, but Gray led her away immediately. Before long, they arrived at the destroyed graveyard, and Gray began saying that the souls of the buried bodies could never move on to the afterlife, since their graves had been destroyed. However, as she tried to leave, a ghost hand grabbed her ankle, but she kicked it away. As it tried to return, she crushed it instantly, but more hands emerged from the ground, so she began trampling them one after another until all of them were destroyed. Eventually, she found the switch inside a locker, and as she switched it on, the elevator opened. Just then, Eddie's ghost appeared before her, wondering if her cold, ugly heart felt no bit of emotion for the hands she destroyed, but she ignored his shitty face, realizing he must be an illusion. Immediately, she hurried back to Gray, hoping to save Zach before it was too late. However, when he wondered what enemies she came across, she told him that they were ugly, useless hands that she managed to destroy without the slightest bit of emotion. Hearing her words, Gray thought her soul must be lost, but decided to lead her to Danny's floor. As they arrived, he said that he would wait at the next elevator, but told her to find a way to heal Zach's injuries first. However, as she arrived inside the examination room, she discovered that Danny's body was also gone, and realized that he must be alive. As she began searching for first aid equipment, she realized that all the closets were empty. When she checked the other rooms, she discovered they were all deserted, so she rushed to the elevator. As she arrived, she wondered if Gray was trying to stall her until Zach would die, but he told her that he was as clueless as her worthless face, and said she was responsible for Zach's injury. However, when he realized his words were useless to her, he suggested they head to Zach's floor, saying that they might find some bandages. With nothing more to lose, Rachel agreed to follow him, so they descended towards the lower floors. At the same time, Danny had appeared before Zach, realizing this would be his only chance to kill him. But in the last moment, Zach regained consciousness, and he was ready to kill him instead. When he wondered how he managed to survive, Danny revealed that he was wearing a protective vest when he got stabbed, and said that he managed to suture his own wound afterwards. Angered by the sight of his worthless face, Zach tried to slay him, but his injury prevented him from moving. So Danny revealed that the only thing he cared about was finding Rachel's beautiful eyes, but Zach told him that he killed her already. Hearing those words, Danny's mind began breaking down, and began saying that he intended to add her eyeballs to his weird collection. As he said those words, Zach realized he might be the most f***ed up creep of them all, and revealed that he would be the one to end her life. At that moment, Danny realized Zach had slipped up, and that Rachel was still alive, so he told Zach to gouge out her eyes in exchange for getting treated. However, Zach would never go back on the promise they made for each other, so Danny decided to leave, but Zach fell from exhaustion. In the meantime, Rachel and Gray arrived on Zach's floor, and she began running towards the spot where she first saw him, hoping to find the knife he had earlier asked her to retrieve. As she entered his disgusting room, she discovered it was worse than a ghetto, but managed to find a fresh bandage and the knife. So she returned to Gray, and they took the lift back to the upper floors. But when she arrived at the spot where she left him, she realized Zach was gone, and thought that Gray must have returned to abduct him. But he told her that she was nothing but a curse to everyone, and revealed that Danny was still alive. Hearing his words, Rachel realized that Zach was in danger. However, as she tried to look for him, Gray began saying that he's finally discovered who she really is, and that he was ready to judge her for her sins. He told her that she was entirely hopeless, and said that her desire to save Zach was for her own selfish reasons, because she hopes to be killed by him. Rachel tried saying that she truly desires to save him, but Gray released the purple smoke around her. Before she knew it, a giant serpent appeared before her eyes, so she ran before it could devour her. As she tried hiding inside a room, it broke through the door, but she spotted Zach before her eyes. Afraid he would be killed, she tried to pull him to a safe spot, but he shoved her away, and the illusion cleared at that instant. Zach thought she may have lost her mind, but sat down as his injury got worse. The sight of his weak, useless body made Rachel sad, and she told him that she couldn't find any first aid equipment on Danny's floor. When Zach told her that the useless moron was still alive, she decided to hand over his knife, and Zach was glad that he finally has a weapon he could wield. As he noticed the frightened look on her face, he tried saying that he was a monster, and that he would survive no matter what. But as he managed to stand, she suggested that they follow the trail of blood, hoping it would lead them to Danny. However, as Rachel came across a slashed painting, a serpent tried to devour her, but Zach managed to save her, and told her to find the exit immediately. As Zach tried to fight off the snake, Rachel found the secret door, but the snake retreated into the wall. Before long, it appeared before her, but Zach managed to slice it, as his injury grew even worse. A few minutes later, they tried to find another exit, but Zach collapsed on the floor, having lost the rest of his strength, so Rachel told him that she would find Danny on her own. As Zach thought it would be too dangerous, he decided to check her gun, but discovered it was already empty. Angered by the discovery, he wondered why she was willing to risk her life to save him, so she revealed that the only thing she cared about was the vow he made to God. However, Zach had heard enough of her bullshit, and told her that there was no God in their world. Hearing those words crushed her, and she wondered where her soul would go once she was dead, but Zach screamed at her to smile anyway. As she managed to do so, he laid down from fatigue, and Rachel realized that he was losing all of his blood. She thought it was only a matter of time before he enters Nirvana, but he gave her his knife, and told her to protect herself in the meantime, so she hurried off to find Danny. As she entered a new corridor, she noticed another trail of blood, and thought it would lead her to him. However, as she followed the trail, purple smoke began oozing from a candle, and the trail began to fade. So she started running into the mist, but fell into a great hole. Before she knew it, she woke up inside a grave, and Eddie's ghost appeared before her eyes, but she told him to get his ugly ass face out of her sight. However, as he decided to bury her anyway, she stabbed the headstone, but teleported to Kathy's torture chamber instantly. As she wondered how she was teleporting, the mist surrounded her again, and Kathy's ghost electrified her on the chair. In a blink, she teleported to a new room, but Kathy's horrendous face reflected in the mirror. At that moment, a mist teleported her to the church, and the illusion was starting to make her lose her mind. But when she noticed Gray before her, she demanded to know where Danny was hiding, so he told her that he was clueless, but said he managed to acquire some medication for Zach. Hearing his words, Rachel realized she could save Zach after all, and tried asking him for the medication. However, when she discovered he has no intention of handing it over, she threatened to carve her knife into his worthless face. But he said that she deserves even worse pain, blaming her for causing Zach's injury. He called her a witch and said that she'd successfully deceived the angels who were supposed to punish her for being a sinner. So to judge her sins, Gray teleported her to a court and declared the start of her trial. As he called for the testifiers, Kathy appeared before them, but Rachel wondered how her disgusting body managed to survive. She went on to show all of them the way Rachel had commanded Zach during their puzzle, saying that she used him as nothing more than a tool, and went on to say that she was the judge, who was shot by her own criminal. However, all of them noticed that Kathy had been smiling when she died, but she told them that this was the worst crime, as Rachel's criminal nature had made her the happiest woman alive. When Gray asked her how she wanted to punish her, she sentenced Rachel to water torture. At that moment, a water tornado surrounded her, and Kathy tried telling her to beg for her hopeless life. But Gray screamed at her to stop, saying that it wasn't her place to pass punishment. Eventually, Gray gave Eddie his turn, and he began saying that she was the same exact person as him. After all, she had buried the bird the same way he wanted to bury her, but because she never shared his feelings, he began choking her, wondering why she picked Zach over him. Because of the way she buried him, he got up believing that she's a witch and said that she should be spiked to death. But even though she was ready to give her life up, Gray screamed for the spikes to vanish. When it was Danny's turn, Rachel wondered where the medicine was, but Gray told him to get on with his testification. However, he thought that she had the most beautiful eyes in the world. But because her heart was different than the rest, he began screaming that her soul could never be saved. Eventually, Gray silenced him, but after he left, Gray began saying that Rachel was a witch, and that she has the power to enchant them all. So he declared that she would be burned alive, and flames surrounded her at that moment. Hoping to save herself, Rachel tried saying that she's innocent, but Gray called her an ugly liar. He said that all of the other psychopaths were actually angels, and called Rachel a devil for ending their lives. So he told her to confess that she's an ugly witch, but she refused, and began saying that she couldn't possibly be a witch since there weren't any witches in her Bible. However, Gray decided to reveal that he's actually God, and said that only he could judge her sins and send her straight to hell. He told her that the real God never existed, but she thought he was just making it up, so that she would willingly lay down her life. As her determination grew stronger, she teleported to her inner world, and spotted a god Zach before her. In an instant, he slashed the illusion and started running off with her. At that moment, she regained consciousness and realized that Zach's knife broke the illusion. When Gray wondered how she managed to figure out that everything was fake, she told him that her knife had revealed the truth, and called it her new god. She told him that she had promised to offer herself to Zach, and said that her promise was her god. As Gray tried saying she was the worst sinner in the world, she said that none of it matters, and told him to hand over the medication before she kills him as well. So he led her into an inner room, and revealed that the medication would help Zach to recover. Without hesitating, she selected the right items, and told him to die already. As she returned to Zach, she discovered he was still alive, and began to treat his wound. As he woke up, she offered to stitch him up, but Zach wondered why she was still creepy, and asked why she was willing to suture his disgusting wound. She told him that he was her new god, but he thought she couldn't be any creepier. By the time she was done, she grew exhausted, and passed out at that instant. When she woke up, she decided to lead Zach to the church, hoping they would find the elevator. However, they discovered that Gray had vanished, but wondered how he mysteriously left. Eventually, they found the elevator and decided to take it to the upper floors. Inside the lift, Rachel wondered how Zach got burns across his body, saying that she wishes to know everything about her god, so he decided to reveal his past to her. When he was a kid, his useless deranged stepfather had decided to burn him, but he managed to hold on to him so that they burned together. However, when his mother arrived, she had decided to kick him out, causing him to grow up in an orphanage. Hearing his words, she wondered if he still intends to leave this useless building, so he told her that he does, and said he would never lie no matter what. At that moment, she recalled an old memory and tried to confess the truth to him, afraid he would hate her once he discovers it. But as she thought he might never discover the truth, she decided to keep it away from him. Just then, the elevator opened, and they entered another floor, but Rachel thought she was better off keeping her secret forever. However, as Zach noticed blood on the floor, she realized that this floor was designed exactly like her home, and thought all her secrets were about to be exposed. Just then, Zach entered the apartment and wondered why she looks like she just saw a ghost. As he noticed a doll couple, Rachel screamed at him to back away, saying that the place might be rigged with traps. But Zach could care less and told her to fix her ugly face instead. He noticed the dolls were sewn up and began wondering if this was some haunted house shit. But Rachel started asking him to kill her already. However, he thought she was losing her mind and said he would only put her out of her misery once they exited the building. As she tried persuading him, she realized his mind was already made up and passed out from a fever. Hearing a strange noise, Zach decided to look inside a room, but found an ugly, disgusting monkey doll. As he began approaching the elevator, Danny revealed himself and locked him inside. Desperate to escape, Zach tried to hack the door, but realized it was hopeless, so Danny told him to search around the apartment and discover who Rachel really is. As he realized it was the only way to leave, Zach decided to look around the apartment. However, as he entered a room and noticed a couple's portrait, the roof collapsed, but he managed to escape. Before he knew it, darts launched at him, but he smacked them away and destroyed the opening. As he made it to the dining room, he kicked the table aside, but realized that the basement was locked. So when he arrived inside the bathroom and noticed the filled-up tub, he thought the key was inside. As he decided to take it, toy fishes bit his hand, but he cast them away instantly. He wondered what weird shit was going on, but decided to go down into the basement. As he began approaching a new door, he nearly fell into a trap, but managed to hold onto his scythe. At the same time, Rachel finally woke up and noticed Danny's ugly ass face. But as he realized she was looking for Zach, he told her that he already directed him to search the apartment for her secret. Desperate to find him, Rachel tried to enter the apartment, but he stood in her way and told her to wait until his return. Meanwhile, Zach was holding on for dear life, but as he fell, Gray managed to catch him and told him that he wasn't allowed to die just yet, so he pulled him outside. Just then, he began revealing that he created the building as an experiment and said that even the angels were no more than a fucking lab rat. However, he thought Zach was a special tool and revealed that he had decided to make him an angel because his moronic brain could only think of killing. On top of that, Zach had decided to escape on his own, making himself a sacrifice. As if that wasn't enough, he was trying to escape with Rachel, and Gray wondered how a moronic ugly loser like him grew fond of her. But the memories of her emotionless eyes flashed across his mind. Gray revealed that they've been his special lab rats, but told him to use a special nameplate to open the locked door in the apartment. Having seen enough of his horrendous face, Zach decided to enter the inner room, and Rachel watched him on TV at the same time. Just as he entered the room, he noticed a new portrait of Rachel and her family, and Danny told Rachel that Zach would kill her once he discovers her secrets. The realization made her afraid, and she thought he would hate her forever. At the same time, Zach managed to open a box and found Rachel's nameplate inside. As he noticed the same writing on the portrait, he went to the locked door, but Rachel managed to sneak away and started running through the apartment, hoping to reach him in time. Meanwhile, Zach managed to fix the nameplate, and Rachel realized she was too late. As he surveyed the room, he thought it must have belonged to Rachel, but the TV came on at that instant. As Zach listened to the news, he realized it was a report of Rachel's parents' murder. On top of that, they had found their bodies sewn up, and Zach remembered that Rachel had sewn up his wound like a pro. The realization scared the shit out of him, and he wondered if she killed her own parents. Before he knew it, Rachel appeared on the screen, and he realized that Danny was trying to interrogate her. Inside the room, Danny decided to ask Rachel why she killed and stitched her own parents up, so she told him that she desired to keep them together as a family. After both of them were dead, she promised to fix them. She went on to tell the doctor that she had sewn both of her parents' bodies together and stitched her mother's mouth to look like she was smiling, so they could become the perfect parents, and she was glad to live peacefully with them forever. Hearing her confession, Danny thought they were exactly alike, and revealed that she has the same eyes as his mother before she isekai'd herself. However, Zach had already seen enough and destroyed the TV immediately. As he returned to the room, he realized that Rachel's sadness was worse and wondered if this floor belongs to her. But Danny fired a gun to silence him. However, Zach was unfazed and decided to ask if Rachel intends to kill him for discovering her secrets. But Danny began saying that Rachel was an angel just like them, and that she has killed several sacrifices before she had a mental breakdown. He thought her Bible was responsible, but wondered how it changed her, so she told him that the Bible reminded her that she's a sinner, and thought she could only find peace when she was dead. Bent on keeping her alive, Danny told Zach to abandon her, but he asked if everything she's ever said was a lie. Afraid of revealing the truth, she wondered if he would continue to be her god, but he told her that he could never become her god. At that moment, she realized she was about to lose him, and decided to threaten him with her gun, before firing a shot that grazed his shoulder. But as she hurried away, he followed her, hoping to calm her down. However, as he discovered the water was overflowing in the tub, he noticed the light switch, and was electrocuted at that instant. Even so, Rachel remained emotionless, and revealed her lighter before he could draw closer. The sight of it scared his useless face, and Rachel realized he was still afraid of fire. Just then, he noticed the exposed gas, but she threw down the lighter, causing an explosion, before escaping into another room as Zach narrowly dodged a metal ball. So he broke the door, and wondered how long she intends to run around like they were playing hide and seek. As she threatened to kill him, he prepared to end her with his scythe. But she told him that her life was useless already, and said that he became her god when he agreed to kill her. In an instant, she fired at the window, and Zach realized she had vanished. But when he met her again, he wondered why she was running away. But Danny threatened to shoot his ugly, empty head. So to finally kill him, Rachel aimed her gun at Zach and fired a shot.